Hey guys, we're back. This time we're going to be taking a look at the first expansion to Ascension. This time around it is Return of the Fallen. And this is a small add-on box. And you can use this to expand the decks in the original game or as a single standalone 2-player game. Mixing this with your original game also boosts it up to 6 players. And we'll get right in and take a look. So then right on top we have our Ascension rulebook. This is basically just a small version of the original rulebook. Everything in here is pretty much the same. You have your storyline on the first page there. And then components list here. Through a glossary of terms. And they include the layout, which in this case actually is needed because this version in the smaller box does not come with a game board. So it shows you where to lay out all the different cards during your games. Then you have descriptions of the different card types and how they work. The complete gameplay rules are pretty much there with a turn breakdown at the bottom. Where are they? And they have the end game stuff here. Then you have a couple different variants in the back. I like the solitaire version. And then another glossary of terms. I'm not sure if that's the same one that's in the beginning. Yeah, the one in the back here is actually a glossary of terms. The one in the front is kind of a how to play quick sheet, which I don't know why they called it a glossary. And then that's it for our rulebook. You can see they spared no expense on the insert here, the wadded up cardboard, which you're probably going to throw this out anyway because you're going to combine these with your other set. We have our bag of honor gems here. Again, the white crystals are worth 1, the red ones are worth 5. Onto our actual cards here, it is worth noting that when you first get these, they're all mixed up. So before you think you're missing a card, make sure you open both packs of cards, because for some reason, like the Mystics and Heavy Infantry here, some of them are in one pack, some are in another. I actually thought I was missing an Apprentice because it was mixed in, just one single one mixed in with the other cards. So the first thing here is our starter decks. You get enough for 2 players this time, so you have 8 apprentices and 2 militia times 2 for your 2 starter decks. We have our cultist card to go in the center line. Then you've got your deck of mystics and your heavy infantry that can be bought from the center row. I do like in the newest 3rd edition here, they have silver borders on these cards, so they're easy to find and take out of your deck and reset for the next game. And your starter decks have white borders, which make it really easy to separate everything out again after the game. And then you have your actual deck here, and this one makes a good mix-up of monsters and heroes and constructs to buy. The original game seemed to lean more towards heroes and constructs. There was always more stuff to buy with runes than there was monsters to defeat. And it made basically building a rune deck more powerful. This balances that out pretty good. This has all the new artwork too, being 3rd edition, along with the various borders for heroes and constructs to make it easier to tell what's what. This deck does introduce the new Fate mechanic. Whenever one of these cards comes out into the center row, this Fate text box triggers. So in this case, when these enter the center row, each player can acquire a mystic without paying its cost and put it on the top of their deck. So that's a pretty powerful one. There's a couple other ones in here as well. Some that banish the cards next to them. Yeah, like this creature here, when he comes out, he banishes all all cards adjacent to it. Things like that. So it's one new mechanic, but nothing too spectacular to add to the game. Just a quick look at some of the creatures and heroes and constructs in here. There's cool Fire Dragon, who makes people discard cards. Doom Weeper, which gets you honor and runes, which they can be very interesting if you draw a power heavy hand and there's stuff out there you want to buy. Maybe you're just shy. You can kill one of these guys off with your power and then use the runes you gain to buy something you might not have been able to afford. Samuel's in here. He's actually one of my personal favorites, and I guess I messed up. Not Fate is not the only new mechanic in here. There is the trophy monster. I think he's the only one though. And when you kill him, you actually take him, put him down with your constructs, and keep him. And for the remainder of the game, anytime you kill a monster with or in the center row, you gain basically that card gets added to your deck, and when they come up they become an attack card with a power equal to whatever their number is up here. So he can be super strong if you can get him early on or mid game. Late game it's kind of less useful because you'll never draw the other creatures back with him. There's one of our new heroes where you can choose whether you want 2 runes or 2 honor. So there's nothing you can buy those 2 runes or they're not going to make a difference. Take the 2 free honor. A couple ways in here to wipe out constructs. The Sword of Asp is kind of fun. You gain 1 honor for killing them, and then another 2 you steal from the opponent, whoever has the most. Those are kind of fun. That's another one that destroys constructs. There's a hero that gains you 5 honor every time you play it. That's a lifebound too, so it can combo with a lot of other lifebound heroes. There's one of our new constructs. If you control 3 or more Mechana constructs, you can draw a card. There's a couple oddball ones in here. Acquire a hero or construct with rune costs less than or equal to the number of Mechana constructs you have. That one's really good with the construct that makes all of your constructs count as Machina constructs. There's also a hero that does that, but only on the turn he's played. There's some other interesting stuff in here though. These Hectic Scribes, draw 2 cards, discard 2 cards. So you draw 2, you look at what's in your hand, and you can choose what to get rid of. There's another one somewhere that allows you to draw a card and then everybody else gets to draw. I think it's him, isn't it? No. Yeah, he's the guy. So you draw 2 cards. Each other player may then draw a card, and then you can also banish a card in the center row if you want. Those come in handy. Again, like I said, there's a lot of card draw in this deck. That's the one that allows you to treat all constructs as Machina constructs for the turn. I think there's 2 of almost everything in there. There's maybe a couple that there's only 1 of, but yeah, it's a nice addition to your deck, or a standalone base deck if you play it that way. Everything else in here runs exactly as the normal game, minus you don't have a board. As I said, with this box alone, you can play this as a 2-player game, which I have done. I will say that the new cards in the deck do lean towards draw cards heavy, so you can build up a deck by the end of the game. You're drawing a massive amount of cards, and it seems kind of silly. But when combined with the original game, it spreads that out a little bit more, so it's a little more reasonable. Playing just this set though, you would definitely notice an exceptional amount of card draw by the end. Overall though, I think Return of the Fallen is a good way to get into the game if it's something you're interested in. The core deck plays fine on its own as a small 2-player game. The fact that it's in a smaller box, it's a cheaper price point to get into as well. Then if you like it, you can move on to one of the bigger box games. They do have new starter sets, which are 2-player starter sets, which can get you into the game. But I like the fact that this one really only has the Fate special rule and nothing else. Just that one extra rule to learn on top of the core game, as opposed to having to learn all sorts of new special rules that are exclusive to certain decks. Overall though, if you're a fan of Ascension, then you'll probably like this to add to the collection. If you have Chronicles of God Slayer or just the base Ascension, which is essentially the same game now, you can add this to it to bring your player count up to 6. You'll have 6 player decks now with the addition of these two. You gain some more Mystics and Inventory, and then a bunch of new cards to add up the variety in your Void deck. On its own, it's a good game and a great entry into Ascension. If you're just something you want to try out and see if you might like, then this is a good place to get started. Otherwise, you can buy one of the bigger boxes and start right off with a 4-player format. I do suggest the game in a higher player count. I think the more players, the better. BGG says players recommend 2 players. I think 3 or 4 is best. It does with this, like I said, you could go up to 6. But it's all up to you and the people you play with. One-on-one is fun, but you don't get the same effect as having a whole group. But that could just be my opinion. Anyway, that is going to wrap it up for our look at Ascension, Return of the Fallen. A great 2-player version of Ascension, either as a standalone game or in addition to another version of Ascension where you can combine the decks and get up to 6 players. As always, thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.